Okay, we're on Shabbat, Perek Chaf, Mishnah Aleph. First Mishnah in chapter 20 of Shabbat. And so in order to understand this Mishnah, let's look back at the beginning of Perek Yud Tet. First Mishnah in chapter 19 talked about the idea, like, I'm allowed to do milah, I'm allowed to do circumcision. So Rabbi Eliezer said that not only was I allowed to do the circumcision, what I'm allowed to do was kortin eitzim, I could chop wood to make coals, to make the knife, to make the izmel, to make the knife that I need in order to do the milah. Because once milah is permitted, then everything that I need to do in order to do the milah is also permitted. And Rabbi Akiva said no. Rabbi Akiva said you could do the milah, but anything else that you needed to do, you had to do beforehand. In order to do the milah itself is permitted, but the things that are hechsher, that are requirements in order to do the milah, you had to do before. So now we're going to have a very similar discussion when it comes to Yom Tov. As we know, in the Torah it says, you have, for example, it says, Shivat on Pesach, Shivat Amim Matzot Tochelu, okay, you have to eat matzah, etc., etc. And then the Torah says the following, Ubayom HaRishon, the first day of Pesach, Mikra Kodesh, it's a holy day, a holiday. Ubayom HaShvi'i Mikra Kodesh Yom Lechem, on the seventh day. So first day and seventh day are holidays. Kol Melechet Avodah, Kol Melacha, Lo Ya'aseh Behem, can't do any work. But the Torah adds, Ach, Asher Ye'achel L'chol Nefesh, Hu Levado Ya'aseh Lechem. Ye'achel L'chol Nefesh, you might have seen this term, it's called Ochel Nefesh, everything that is eaten by man. Hu Levado Ya'aseh Lechem, no doubt you may do. And the Chazal learn out from this, you're allowed to cook on Yom Tov, it's very well known. Yom Tov, you're allowed to cook, whereas Shabbat, you're not allowed to cook. And that's called Ochel, well, I could do this, Ochel Nefesh. Ochel Nefesh. Food for life, that you're allowed to prepare on Yom Tov. So, but if you're allowed to prepare the food, how far back am I allowed to go? Can I grind the wheat? If I'm allowed to grind the wheat, can I cut the wheat? If I can cut the wheat, can I sharpen the tool to cut the wheat? All in the interest of Ochel Nefesh. So this is the nature of our machlok. You don't go that far back, but a similar machloket from what we saw in Milah appears. Says the Mishnah. Rabbi Eliezer Omer. Rabbi Eliezer says, Tolin et hamishmeret v'yom tov, v'notnim latluya b'shabbat. Mishmeret is a filter. So let's say, for example, you could just use this as a visual aid. This is the top of my wine jug. And they poured in the wine. Okay, this is the way that we're going to pour it in the wine. So if I wanted to now make wine, what I would do is I would take a mishameret, I would take a cloth, and I would put it around here, okay? And then what I would do is I would take sediment. Let's say I had extra sediment. This is sediment. Once they're done crushing the grapes, there's still a ton of wine in it. So what I want to do is I want to leave whatever's left in there. I want to put the sediment on the top of my mishameret, on the top of my, it's basically a filter, or it's not really a filter, it's more like I guess it's a filter, okay? And then the liquid would seep through. So Rabbi Eliezer says, I can place the mishameret, I can place this mishameret, this filter thing on Yom Tov, and if I can't do it on Shabbat, but I can put the sediment on the tluya, on the filter on Shabbat. Right? So why? Rabbi Eliezer says all you have to do is motiach et pia l'chol tzad be'igul. You're gonna wrap around and wrap a string around this. This is the imaginary top of my jug. And it's like an oil, like a covering on the opening of the kli. Okay. But Rabbi Eliezer says, Avagav the avid oil, even though you're making an oil like a temporary covering, share b'yom tov. Share, it's permitted on Yom Tov. Why? The Svirle le Rabbi Eliezer holds, Machshirei echel ochel nefesh, she'efshar lazotan me'erev Yom Tov, Machshirei, the things, the tools, in order to make ochel nefesh that you could have done before Yom Tov, mutar la'asotam b'Yom Tov. You're allowed to do them on Yom Tov, just like we learned vis-a-vis the milah, the circumcision. So even though I could have put this mishameret on my jug from before Yom Tov, even if I didn't, I can still do it on Yom Tov. But Shabbat lechatchila lo. Shabbat I shouldn't do it. Aval im tluyai, if it's already on Shabbat, notin letocha shmarim u'misanenim. I can put the shmarim, I can put the sediment on, and then I can lisanen otam. I can then filter them. I can filter them. The ein derech borer b'kach. He says that's not the normal way of borer. So Rabbi Eliezer says I can put the mishameret on the jug on Yom Tov, and put the sediment, put the sediment on top of it if it's already there, if the kli is ready from on Shabbat. The Chachamim say no. The Chachamim say no, you cannot put the Mishameret on Yom Tov because you could have done it before. And I'm not allowed to do make a hechsher, make the kli, make the utensil I need on Yom Tov if I could have done it before. And and if I have one ready, I can't make the tluya on Shabbat. Why? The Bartanura says it's toldat borer or merakeh. It's a kind of borer, it's a kind of filtering. It's a kind of sifting or filtering, or borer is, I don't know. I can't remember the English word, but you got the point. Okay, aval, so I can't do it on Shabbat. But I can filter out, I can do this borer, I can do this sifting, this choosing on Yom Tov. Why? Because on Yom Tov it's ochel nefesh. That's one reason, okay, so therefore you're allowed to do things that are not allowed on Shabbat for the purpose of ochel nefesh, not just the cooking itself. I'm allowed to do borer if the borer is necessary in order to prepare the food. Which is why I use my French press coffee maker. I use it on Shabbat. Excuse me, not on Shabbat. Chas v'shalom. I use it on Yom Tov. Because what happens when you use a French on Shabbat? You can't do this. Shabbat. What happens with the French press is it's basically a filter. It's called a bodum, a French press. It's a filter. You fill it with water, and then you press the plunger down, and that plunger is pushing the sediment and allowing the water. It's basically doing borer with a kli, asur on Shabbat. But on Yom Tov, the reason you want to do it because the coffee is fresh, and as we just learned in the Mishnah, according to the Chachamim, notlim latluya b'Yom Tov, even though it's a kind of toldat borer, on Yom Tov, since it's part of ochel nefesh, that's something you can do. Obviously, I'm not going to paskin for you about your French press. You should ask your Rav whether he permits using a French press on Yom Tov. And we'll stop here. As always, you can email me at arspolter@gmail.com if you have any comments or questions. And we'll dedicate the learning to my memory of my father, Rav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. I'd just like to add, French press coffee is really good. Have a good day.